The letter in the blue notebook. Emma never believed that a single moment could change a person's life. She thought life changed slowly, one day at a time, through small decisions and ordinary events. But on a rainy afternoon in October, something happened that made her question everything she thought she knew. It started when she found a blue notebook on a seat in the town library. Emma was 23 years old and worked in a small bookstore near the center of town. She loved books, quiet places, and rainy days. Most afternoons were the same. She organized shelves, helped customers, and read during her breaks. Her life was comfortable, but sometimes it felt predictable. She often wondered if something exciting would ever happen to her. On that rainy afternoon, she visited the library after work. She planned to return a novel she had borrowed the week before. As she walked between the shelves, she noticed a blue notebook resting on a chair near a window. The library was almost empty. Only a few people were reading quietly. Emma looked around, expecting someone to claim the notebook, but no one seemed to notice it. Curious, she picked it up. There was no name on the cover. She opened the first page, hoping to find the owner's information. Instead, she found a handwritten letter. The writing was neat and careful. It began with the words, "To the person who finds this notebook." Emma felt a small smile appear on her face. She continued reading. The letter explained that the notebook belonged to a young man named Daniel. He wrote that he was leaving the notebook in different places around town because he wanted to share his thoughts with strangers. He believed that everyone carried stories inside them, and that sometimes strangers could understand each other better than friends. Emma found the idea unusual but interesting. She sat near the window and kept reading. The notebook contained stories, memories, and reflections about life. Daniel wrote about his dreams, his fears, and his hope of finding someone who truly understood him. The more Emma read, the more curious she became. There was something honest about his words. They felt real. Before leaving, she noticed a final message at the bottom of the page. "If you are reading this, please write something about yourself on the next page." Emma hesitated. She had never done anything like this before. Still, she found herself taking a pen from her bag. She wrote about her job at the bookstore, her love of reading, and her dream of traveling to different countries someday. Then she placed the notebook back on the chair and went home. The next morning, she could not stop thinking about the notebook. She wondered if Daniel would ever read her message. A week later, she returned to the library. To her surprise, the blue notebook was sitting in the exact same place. Her heart beat faster as she opened it. Daniel had replied. He thanked her for sharing her story and wrote several questions about her favorite books and places she wanted to visit. Emma smiled. It felt like receiving a letter from an old friend. She wrote her answers and left the notebook once again. This strange exchange continued for several weeks. Every Friday, Emma visited the library. Every Friday, she found a new message from Daniel. They talked about books, family, dreams, fears, and life. Neither of them shared a photograph. Neither revealed too many personal details. Yet they slowly became important parts of each other's lives. Emma began looking forward to Fridays more than any other day of the week. One evening, Daniel wrote something that surprised her. He admitted that he had seen her before. According to him, they had crossed paths many times without realizing it. He had noticed her reading in a cafe. He had seen her walking home from work. He even knew the bookstore where she worked. Emma felt both nervous and excited. Suddenly, Daniel seemed less like a mysterious writer and more like a real person. She wanted to know who he was. She wanted to meet him. But Daniel never suggested meeting. Instead, he continued writing through the notebook. Winter arrived, and the town became covered in snow. The notebook remained their connection. Then one day, Daniel wrote something different. He explained that he had received a job offer in another city. If he accepted it, he would leave in 2 weeks. Emma stared at the page for several minutes. She felt an unexpected sadness. She realized how much Daniel meant to her. The thought of never hearing from him again was painful. For the first time, she understood that she had fallen in love with someone she had never met. That night she could not sleep. She kept thinking about everything they had shared. The next day, she made a decision. She wrote a long letter inside the notebook. She told Daniel how much his words had changed her life. She thanked him for every message, every story, and every moment they had shared. Finally, she wrote something she had been afraid to admit. She wrote, "I think I have fallen in love with you." Her hands trembled as she finished the sentence. Then she closed the notebook and left it at the library. The following week felt longer than any week she had ever experienced. Every day seemed endless. Every hour felt slow. Finally, Friday arrived. Emma rushed to the library after work. The notebook was waiting on the chair by the window. She opened it immediately. Daniel had written only a few lines. "Meet me tomorrow at 3 o'clock beside the old fountain in the town square." Emma read the message 3 times. Her heart raced. She felt excited, nervous, and terrified all at once. What if he was nothing like she imagined? What if they had no connection in real life? Still, she knew she had to go. The next afternoon, Emma arrived at the fountain 15 minutes early. Snow covered the ground and cold wind moved through the square. She waited anxiously. 3 o'clock came. Then 3 o'clock passed. 5 minutes later, a young man approached the fountain. He carried a familiar blue notebook beneath his arm. He stopped a few feet away and smiled. Emma immediately recognized him. He was the man who often visited her bookstore. He was the customer who always bought mystery novels and smiled politely before leaving. She had noticed him many times without knowing who he was. Daniel looked just as nervous as she felt. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he held up the notebook and said, "I think this belongs to both of us now." Emma laughed. The tension disappeared instantly. They spent the entire afternoon talking. Hours passed like minutes. Everything felt natural. The connection they had built through words was real. Over the following months, they spent more and more time together. They visited cafes, explored nearby towns, and shared their favorite books. Daniel eventually declined the job offer because he realized that some opportunities were more valuable than career success. 1 year later, on another rainy afternoon, Daniel returned to the library carrying the same blue notebook. He handed it to Emma and asked her to open the first page. Inside was a new letter. This time, it was not addressed to a stranger. It was addressed to her. At the end of the letter was a simple question. "Emma, will you spend the rest of your life writing new chapters with me?" Tears filled her eyes before she could answer. She looked up and saw Daniel holding a small ring. The library around them seemed to disappear. There was only Daniel, the notebook, and the future waiting ahead of them. Emma smiled through her tears and said the easiest word she had ever spoken. "Yes, sometimes love arrives when we expect it. Sometimes it arrives when we least expect it. And sometimes it begins with nothing more than a forgotten blue notebook, waiting on a chair beside a window."